Hi, I'm Nicola from Bloom Solopreneur, and I'm just going to do a quick tour of our new updated version of our all-in-one financial spreadsheet. So we start off in the instructions tab, and this has now been added to have some more setup that you can put in there. So you can change the currency code that you want to use. Put the year in that the spreadsheet is for, because the dashboards only work on a year-by-year basis. So if you want to use this spreadsheet for multiple years, then have different versions of the same spreadsheet and each one for each year. You can also now have fire goals and net worth goals, and you enter these goals on the instructions sheet. Also, you can give yourself a no spend challenge, which means that you're tracking the days that you don't spend any money. So, for instance, what we set up here is 15 days for each month that I want to not spend any money. That number can change depending on what you feel like, and the number of days you want to challenge yourself to are configured on this spreadsheet. You can exclude certain categories from the no spend days. So if you've got regular payments going out actually all regular payments are excluded from the no spend goals. But if you have certain expenses such as, I don't know, paying off a debt or something like that isn't on a regular payment, but you want to exclude from no spend goals, then put those categories there. You can have up to 5 that will be excluded, and that information will be taken from this section here. Tab, we also have a new feature for tracking balances for bank accounts. So you can track the running balance of up to 5 accounts. You name the accounts that you want here, and you put in the starting balance at the beginning of the year, and then from then on, all of the transactions that you enter in the expenses and income and etc. Tabs will then be added to accordingly in the running balance, so that you know how much you should have in each account, and that's displayed on the dashboard. And from there, everything else on the instructions tab is just giving you details of each of the main transaction tabs, so that you know what each column means and what to do with it. So if we jump next to the category setup, this tab allows you to modify or use whatever categories you want. So we have 3 types of category. We've got the expenses in purple, the income in blue, and assets and liabilities in green. You can change the values you want in these yellow columns. So anything that's in yellow means that you can edit it, and that's the same throughout the spreadsheet. So yellow cells means that's for you to enter information. Any other coloured cell could have a calculation in there or a formula in there. So please don't change anything that's in a different coloured cell. But what you can have is as many categories up to and including everything in this purple section. If you don't want as many as that, then blank out ones that you don't want, change them to whatever you want. So maybe you only want, 10 or whatever. Then you can modify them accordingly. This menu field here is a concatenation of both these subcategories, so that you get a unique value. So if I change this to toys now, it'll give me a duplicate error because there's a 1 here already for that. So as I say, feel free to add in or take away as many as you want in this tab, but don't add or remove new rows in this sheet. The category tab has a menu on it that is fixed. You don't have to use them all, but what I would say is that if you want to be monitoring debt payments or savings payments, then you definitely need to include a category, at least one category of debts if you're monitoring the debts, and one category of savings if you're monitoring the savings. The subcategory is optional. So if you're happy with just these main categories, then that's fine. Just put those in and don't do anything more. From here, for each category, for each expense category, you can enter in a monthly budget. So in this example, children's activities, we're saying that we'd like to spend no more than £25 each month. And for toys, it's 50, and so on. So you put in the budget that you want for each of the categories that you define. This is optional. You don't need to do this. So for some debts, we've got some budget there. And then for an income, we've got a budget of, we hope to get a salary of £1,000 each month. So it's just something to track it by. In the assets and liabilities section, the budgeting is irrelevant. What you want to be entering here is your current values of your assets and liabilities. So if you've got any assets such as a house or a car or whatever, jewellery, high-end items, then put in their values there, and that will go into your net worth calculation. If you've got any debts or loans or whatever, then put in your balance there, so what your current debt is, and that will then take into account also in the net worth. So it'll take what you currently have in your liabilities and subtract any payments that you make throughout the year. So they're the fields that you need to be filling in for your categories. If I go through the transaction sheets quickly, not much the same. So there's similar sort of sheets as before. So we have an income sheet that you enter the date. So it's just one sheet. You enter everything on that one sheet. So for every month, and it automatically calculates the month for you, and you pick from the menu based on the values that you've just filled in the category setup, what category that income relates to, and by selecting it, it will automatically subdivide that category so that the reporting and the charts work accordingly. You can also optionally pick the bank account that it's related to or it's been paid into, and by doing this, it will then keep you a running balance of the total. So if you haven't defined any accounts on the instruction sheet, then obviously this menu will be blank, and you don't need to fill it in at all. But that's really the income. We have a monthly bills tab. So this really is about setting up any regular monthly payments that you have going out of your bank account. So it could be to savings, could be to credit cards, it could be paying bills, who knows. But you can set that up as you see fit. Again, it displays the expense categories this time. So we've got all of the expense categories that are in there. If it's ongoing throughout the year, then leave the start and end months blank. If it starts at some point through the year, such as this one here, start paying the credit card in May, then that put in the start month of when the first payment goes in, and if it ends at some point during the year, then put the end month for the month after the last payment. So you want to make sure that last payment is accounted for. So you need to put it, if the last payment is going out in April, then you put May as the end month. So that's fairly straightforward. And again, this is all taken into your expenses throughout the year. So once you've got information entered in there, they don't need to be replicated on the expenses tab. So this is just really for everything else. And again, it's just one sheet, so you just continuously enter your expenses, enter the date that you have the expenses. That automatically calculates the month that it's associated with. You can optionally put in a description. You can pick from your category list to say what it's about, mandatory, put in the amount, and again, optionally, if you're tracking your balance, you put in which account it's associated with. What you'll notice here is, along with the month, we've also got columns here for the bills for the month. So if we've entered a bill payment, so that would be a regular payment, then it will be showing up on in this column here. So we've got here, I've added an extra row in here for the rent and mortgage category of £50, but we've already got a regular payment going out for £500. So really it's just a check. Assuming it's okay, then that will really just go against how much your total, the total payment that you've made. So have I got anything that's got both? Let's just see. So if I put in a new one here of travel, savings and travel, make it £100, and let's start it in August. It's going to bank account 1. So now if I go into here, and just for ease, I'm going to just change that record here to savings and travel. Because this date here is January, it's not showing me any monthly bills because obviously I'm not starting making that payment until August. If I change that to August, then the bill comes in August, and it's now telling me I've paid a total of £125 for that month. If I go back to the category setup quickly and find my savings travel, let's put in a budget of £100 and go back to my tracker, we'll see now that it's also shown the budget there. So what we've got here is, and we've spent £25 extra in August for this category. So this changes depending on the month. So it'll work out for that category how much you've spent and whether it's overspent. So it always gives you a track on your expenses tab as to whether you are exceeding the amount that you've budgeted each month. And finally, I'm just going to quickly show you the share portfolio because that also feeds into the dashboard. So it's fairly straightforward. You put in the share name, put in the current share price, how many shares you've got, and the price that you originally paid. And this works out the cost and the current value. If I now say that this, my shares have gone up to, say, £20, you can see that the current value has increased to £4,000. So it cost me £1,600, and it now is worth £4,000. So I've got a gain of £2,400, which is 150% gain. So that information is standalone there, but it also feeds into the dashboard. And whilst I'm here, I am just going to quickly go through the other tabs, which are just for information, really. It's about logging things that you might want to keep track of. So the donations, I know in the UK we need that sort of thing on a tax return. Online shopping, just to make sure you keep track of what you've bought. Credit cards, accounts, subscriptions, and passwords. They're all just for trackers. For information, it doesn't feed into any dashboards. We also have a no spend tracker, so I'm going to show that now. And this shows you on a daily basis whether you've spent or not. So anything green means that you haven't spent any money. So based on the actual expenses that I've input, then in January I spent on the first half of the month, but then I stopped spending, and I have got, the goal was 15 days, and I've actually spent on 10 of those days. Sorry, I only had 10 no spend days, so I missed the goal there. Whereas in February, the goal again was 15 days, and I actually had 28 no spend days, so spent on the 4th, so I didn't hit the full month of 29, but that's what that's showing you. So anything green means that was a no spend day. So if we now quickly look at the dashboard, it shows you charts for cash flow, your income, your expenses. We've got the cash that you've got available. So again, income and expenses in one chart with a running flow of how much cash you have available each month once you've taken into account the expenses. It doesn't take into account the account balance in the first place. So this is just on a month-by-month basis how much cash was spare. And again, this is over the course of the year. With the information that I've entered, there was an excess of 3,655 that I could have potentially put into savings over and above what I already was saving. We've also got the running balances here, so this is a new feature. So because we entered some initial account information, it's tracking all of the income and bills and expenses that we spend on each of those accounts, and we'll show you where you are. So if you hover over it, it gives you the value of 4,233 in bank account 2, and so on. So for each one you can see. What we also have is charts showing savings that you've made, any debts that have been paid, and also you can drill down into all of the categories to show you more detail about what categories you spent in and what the budget was for each of those. And finally, over on the right hand side, we have a net worth tracker. So we've got our goals that we've entered on in the instructions tab, and it shows you how close we are towards those goals. And the final thing on the dashboard that it shows is a month-by-month view of your no spend tracker. So as you can tell from the calendar view that we just looked at, January was not a good month and we overspent. So the goal was 15 and we actually only had 10 no spend days. So that will show you as an overview which months you hit your targets. So on top of that, on this dashboard, we have filters, which is new in this release. So we filter by month, so you can pick which month you're interested in, and all of the charts, these top 4 here, will change, and the cash available will change. The bank running balances don't, because it needs dates to show you the flow. If you want to select more than one month, you select this little icon here with the ticks or the check boxes, and you can then select which months you're interested in. So that shows you the 3, and then you can clear the filters by pressing the box on the end, and you're back to being the full year. Again, because this one's still cleared, still ticked, the multi-select one's still ticked. If I select, say, January, what it's now doing is excluding January, but it's showing everything else. So if I want to see everything, I have to clear that multi-select option there. And you also can filter this chart by the categories. So if we want to look at expenses, again, this has also got multi-select and clear filters on there. So we can clear the filters, look at the expenses, we see everything. So if you've got all of those expense categories set up, it's quite challenging to see the information. But if you click on each one, then you can see the budget and the amount spent for each category that you've set up for both expenses and income. And this will also filter by month. So if I click January again and go down to here, the income that you see here is just for January, and the expenses are equally just for January. So you can filter and see the information by month and categories. So there really is hopefully a quick view of the changes that we've made in this new spreadsheet. Hopefully you'll find it useful, and let me know if you have any comments.